Okay, welcome back. So in this previous video, I explained you what is an edge and how can we edge blend and how can we create it manually and how to record a journal and how to remove unwanted codes. Now in this video, we will see how to pass elements into the edge. We were at this point where we couldn't able to I explained you also how to find an edge, how NX is finding an edge using find object method, but we should not use it as well. I explained you explanation on that. So now we will see how we can get this edge. So if I also have my NX session open with me. Here you see when you run this record at the journal says it created, it tries to find the edge from the block 5. So somehow we need to find first the block 5 and then from the block 5 we need to find edge, any edge, because in this case yes we need to find exact this edge, but let's say for our case we need to find any edge, any of one edge or all of the edges, let's say. Yeah. So how it knows from the block we need to find it, so somehow we need to find the block. But one good thing is here if you see the code we are also creating the block. So if you see we are commenting the block and then using the feature here, right? So this is a feature which has the edge. So this is the feature nothing but the block feature that we created. So it creates the block feature at 0, 0, 0. So we have the feature. From this feature we need to get the edge and then pass this edge to here. So when you pass this edge to here, let's say any one of edge, because this edge array is only one, right? So we pass, let's say the any of the edge that coming out of this feature. So we don't know how to get this edge. First of all, we have the feature. So I'll copy this feature and then I say here feature 1. Yes, I have this feature. Oh, this feature is created at this commit, and then I'll say dot. Is there anything with the name edge? Here you see it says this gives us get edges. So there is one method that gives all the edges. If you go back here and then it says returns the edges created by this feature. What it returns an array of edges. So it can be multiple edge, it can be one edge, or it can be 5 edges. We don't know how many edges. So we get this method. So now what does it do? It returns all the edges. So this feature, if you see, it comes from the block feature builder. We commit the block feature builder and then feature 1 is coming here. So this edges can be named as, it's an edge array. What does it returns? It returns array of edge. So it is a block, right? So here if you see I have block feature edge, I have all the edges with me. Now it needs only one edge. Let's say I want to take only one edge. So I'll copy this and then I paste it again, and I want to send only one edge here, so I pass the 0th element. So now if you see it gives me random edges out of it, right? So it can be any edge. So if you see this code again, what it does, it goes back, it goes and then tries to create a block, right? And then use that block to create the edge, a blend here. And in which point it creates a block, it creates a blocks in 0, 0, 0. So but we already have one block. If you run the code will create one more block at again the same location, isn't it? Because we hard coded the location. So I'll, for the testing I will remove this so that it's easier for us. Now I removed it, I'll rebuild the application and we will run the application again in NX. So as of you know now, it takes a random edge from this block collection, block feature editor, edges, it's technically edges. So it's also better to give a proper nomenclature. So it's all edges now, and then from the edge it can be any edge. We don't know which edge it is for now, right? It can be any edge because it's an array. So we'll run the tool and then see whether it is working as we expected. It created a blend, yes, and if you want to see where this blend is, it's over here, right? It can be any edge. We don't know this edge. That's one more issue that we may face during development. We don't know. Okay, I want to select object, but which object it is, right? So now we want our theme is to create a edge blend, but for all the edges. So instead of zero edge, I need to pass all the edges. How we can do? We can do either way here. See, instead of passing zeroth edge, you can pass all the edges. Okay, how I can do it? This edge here, it's an array. It returns me all the edges for me, right? What I'm doing with the seeing edge, I'm seeing it to multiple seed edge tangent and then following up and then creating one tangent rule and then setting this rule and then committing it, and I'm setting the value to 15 here, right? So if you see the seed edge, it says it's again an type of an edge array of size 1, and then what we are doing, we are finding the zeroth edge and then are setting it to the seed edge, I mean to the zeroth element. Instead of this, what if we pass all the edge that we got to this place, because it expects an edge array, we already have an edge array with all the edges, right? So we can do it. I will comment this line. We don't want this line as well because we already have the edge here. I'll copy this and then paste it here. So now what technically we did, instead of creating seed edge again, a variable called seed edge, and then creating of length of an array of length 1 and then setting the zeroth value, what exactly we did is we passed all the edge that we got out of this feature. So which means, what is the feature? The feature is a block feature that we created. So now I will delete it so we can build it and then rerun it. So technically what it does is we found all the edges and then we passed it to the edge blend array. So if I build it and then run the application, now it should create an edge blend block first and then create edge blend with all the edges. Let us see whether it works. See, if you see this, now we passed all the edges and all the 12 edges got selected, and we created only one edge block. So sometimes what the user says, the requirement says I want multiple edges, for example. So what we need to do in that case, we instead of passing all the edges, we need to do the same. We will do that now. So let's say the requirement here is not one edge blend with all the edges. I want multiple edge blends with one each edge first. So now here we'll also see how to segregate the code, because if you see, uh, we have one method called main and we have one piece of code here which creates the blocks for us, and we have one piece of code which creates edge blend for us. And if you see, we are using the edge blend, the name of these features again and again, the same name, right? So it's not a right way of doing it. So what we can do is we can write a simple functions, multiple simple functions, let's say, and then we will use those functions to get and set the value. So first, if you see the sequence is we are creating what we are creating. We are creating a block. So let's say I'm naming it to create block, and then is this method taking any inputs? No, block creation doesn't take any inputs, but it returns. So here I'll say it doesn't return anything for now. Now I'll copy the piece of code where it created the block and we'll paste it here. So what does it do now? So when I call this function, it goes into this place and then tries to create a block, right? And what does it do? It doesn't do anything, just creates and then come out of it once this line executes, right? But if you remember our requirement is to create blend from block. So we need the block first to create the blend, right? So it has to return what this feature that got created. So I'm going to say this is going to return me a feature, and now it throws a that says you said that it's going to return a feature, but it's not returning any of this. So here we need to return the feature one. What is feature one? It's a block, so better we provide a good name. All right. Oh, so now if you see, it creates a block, and at the end of this block creation, it returns the block to us. That's a good piece of code, but more things can be done here. But for now, it's in the standard practice. It's okay. So what you create a block here, and then you return the block here. So we need to call this function. I'm going to paste it again. It doesn't needs any arguments, but what it does do, it returns a if you see here, it returns a feature. So I need to create a feature. So I'll say feature, and the name of this feature is block feature. Why we need this block feature is because from this block feature we are going to get the edge, right? So I'm going to paste it again here, because this is going to be the return value. If you say it's throwing one more error, I'm using an object reference of the non-static method. What does it mean? So here if you see, I'm using, this is a method which of static, but the method that what I created, it's not static anymore. So I need to, if you call, you according to the the logic, or if you mention it as static, you can call only the static methods inside it. So to overcome it, I created one object. It got came with the template. So in this template object I have this, right? So here now my when this piece of code executes, what it does, it goes this point and creates a block for us, and then comes back and then set the value to here. Again it's throwing error. It's throwing because we removed some code. That's okay, we will use it. Now what this piece of code is doing, this piece of code is trying to create edge, or it's trying to create edge blend. I will cut all this code, or we'll create one more method. Let's name this method as public, and then it doesn't return anything here, right? Because we are not creating anything, we are modifying it. And then what is the name of this method? Let's say create edge blend. And here for this method, and then here we will paste, we'll move take all this piece of code, we'll paste it here. Still there are errors. For the first error, it cannot able to find the work part because we didn't declare it. Today we cannot able to use the work part which is not declared, right? And then either now if you go back to the in the same video, previous video, I mean, there it was throwing an error. So what we did there is we commented this line and then passed, here we passed the object itself. This is what expects. You can either pass a null object or create a null object or create a null variable and then pass it again. Here now it says, yeah, it it did something. It says cannot, it's committing a feature and then returning a feature one. We didn't declare it. So this is a feature one. Again we removed this line, we uncommented this line. Now it doesn't know the feature one, right? So we need to pass a feature, or we need to pass edge to this method. I can either pass a feature here and then say block feature, right? And then from this block feature I can get all the edge and then recreate it. It will work, right? Or the requirement, let's say this will do the same work what we did here, right, previously, but the requirement changes now. Instead of passing, instead of creating edge blend from one feature, we want multiple features to create. So for each of this blend we need each of this edge we need a edge blend. So instead of passing the whole edges into this method, we need only to pass one edge to this method. If you understood it properly, because we need to create edge blend at each of the edge, right? So let's say each edge, and what we are going to do is we are going to pass this to, again we may need this code, and then we may need this piece of code as well. Instead of all this block edge, I can pass the 0th edge here. So what this does is, and then pass the seed edge here. So if you see, the edge came here and we assigned it to an array of length 1 and then passed it. This should also work, right? Now come back to the code. Here we have edge, and then what we need to do, we need to create the blend, each blend for each edge. So now if I call this method, let's say I'm calling this method here, and then here it expects what, edge, but I don't have what, edge with me. All I have here is, give me a second, right, so all I have here is what, all I have here is a block feature, and then what I need here is an edge here. I don't have an edge, but if you remember, we were getting edges from this feature, correct? So if I say block feature dot get edges, which will give me all the edge. So what it returns, it returns an edge array. So it means block feature edge. What type of object it is? It's an edge array. So here if you see, now I have an edge array. Now I have to loop through it. The equation is simple. Now I created a for each loop. So what this for each loop does is, it you can pass an array, you can pass collections, uh, you can do, it's looping through. It looks similar to array, or like, I mean for, but one better thing is, you don't need to initialize all these variables like int 1 and then looping through it. Either if you want, you can do that as well. Here if you say for, then it's from here you need to set the size, length of this array and then use it, but you don't need all this in here. So if I say for each and then the type is edge here. So what type of an edge? Let's say each edge from block. And then inside this method we are going to call this method again. So here what it does, it goes back, and then what we are going to do is we need to pass single edge, because this edge, it requires a edge. We are looping through now the edge block, edge array, and then pasting it here. Is this working? No, it's throwing an error. It's saying again you are using a non-static method in a static method. So what we need to do is we need to call this using the program. So now this method does the same thing that what we did before. but it creates an individual edge blend for each of this edge, right? And what else it also does, the code is much more readable, I would say. It's still, we can more make this code much more readable, but for a starting perspective, this is okay, right? Okay, so we will quickly build it. Before that, I will delete this too because we don't need it. I will build it. Then it's built now. We'll rerun the uh, application. But we'll quickly see what we are doing here. We are creating one edge, I mean one block here. One block of the location 000 and the size is 100. And then what we are doing, we are finding all the edges out of this block feature, and then we are looping through each of this edge, and then for each edge we are creating an edge blend. We'll see whether this works. It worked, but if you see, it failed again. It that didn't, for some reason it cannot able to create edge blend in all the other edge. There can be a good chance that it failed. So if you remember, we need to debug and understand why it is failing. We'll see that in the next video.